All right, we just got here to Fort Pierce, hopping on this 57-foot Lydia sportfish. Very cool boat. It's got cat 3412s. Gives her a lot of speed. She rides really nice. So we got a 2-day trip ahead of us, going from Fort Pierce through Okeechobee Canal, through all the locks, and plan on staying the night in Cape Coral tomorrow night. And then the second leg of the trip is to back home to St. Pete. So let's check it out. Go down to the engine room. I'm just gonna be doing some general checks right now because we are taking off first thing in the morning about 6 a.m. So small little fuel leak here on this fuel transfer line. It looks like we just need to replace this whole section of hose here. So I'll get that cleaned up. That way we can monitor that. And yeah, I'm gonna check all the oil and fluids and everything there. Take a look at what leaks are going on, if there's any. I'll clean those up. That way we're fresh and we can monitor everything as we're running. Yeah, I'm just gonna do a general check, look at the oil levels, gear oil levels, look at our generator, and yeah, kind of take inventory of what we got to work with for our trip. Strainers actually look pretty clean. Yeah, big cats. 7,135 hours. 7,121 hours. These engines got a lot of life left in them too. This boat is great. You can almost stand straight up and down in this engine room. There's so much room. Tons of room in front. Plenty of room to walk, get around the engines, generators, center line. Just a very very well laid out engine room, which is pretty sweet. Pretty much all I gotta do down here. Alright, good morning. Just got everything fired up, switched over to generator power, shore power cords all collected, hoses, ran the main engines, got them warmed up. Checked all the fluids, everything in good shape. Just waiting on Captain Steve to get here, and then we'll be able to drop lines and take off. Show you a little bit the inside of the boat here. really nice panel flooring. Big dinette on the port side. There's a galley. 2 sub freezers. Really nice boat. I gotta pull all these shades up. Those are the shades. Main steps, support berth, twin bunks, starboard side, twin bunks, big storage, AC, hallway, your port side. This is your guest head. And then your master is the V berth here. So we'll find some lights. Lights are up there. I can't reach them. But the V berth here is your master with your big master head. Really spacious, big shower. Alright, so as we get into the Intracoastal Waterway here and start the first leg of our trip, I figured I would give you guys some tips and tricks for navigating the Intracoastal Waterway here in Florida. Whether you're going north, south, across the lake, any of that. So, really, the very first thing that you should know about traveling the Intracoastal is that you are looking for the bright yellow markers on your channel markers. So on your red, that's going to be a yellow reflective triangle. On your left is going to be a yellow reflective square. So that is how you know that you are inside the channel of the Intracoastal Waterway. If you do see other markers, you're coming in an inlet, they will not have those yellow reflective signs on them. So one of the best things that you can do navigating is having a good pair of binoculars on you. That way you can always look ahead, make sure, especially if you're at a junction or an inlet, you can look ahead, look for that reflective yellow triangle, well, yellow square. That's going to tell you that you're in the Intracoastal, and you're in good shape. So another little trick. So obviously you are following you're looking for these reflective yellow triangle and yellow square. So the other important thing to consider traveling the Intracoastal is how do you know when you keep your red on your right or on your left? So obviously the Intracoastal starts in Virginia, goes down the coast all the way to Florida, around the Panhandle, all the way to Texas. Now, one way to remember if you're going north to south on the East Coast, you are keeping the red on your right hand side. Now, this is a great way to, this is a great general rule of thumb if you are making the trip north to south. The very best way I have learned to navigate the Intracoastal Waterway is that you are always keeping your red markers on the main land side, and your green markers are going to be on your ocean or Gulf side main body of water. So when you are following the coast, the Intracoastal down to Florida, you're keeping your red on your right going south, and you make the bend around Florida, you are still keeping the red on your right hand side going north because the red is on the mainland side. To the left is the Gulf, and that is where you're keeping your green. And then that will then follow as you get into the Panhandle. Again, red on your right hand side to indicate the mainland side, green on your left side. Now, the only way this changes is if you are going from Texas, going the opposite direction. It doesn't change. The green, again, is on the mainland side, but this is the only scenario where where you are keeping the red on your left or to port. So going from west to east, south to north, um, yeah, you're keeping the red on your left side and green on your right hand side. But again, the very best way that I tell everybody is when you're in the intercoastal, you're keeping your red on the mainland side, green on the main body of water side. That's a really good trick. Um, Make it nice and easy so you know and you're confident when you get into the intercoastal. So another little tip, um, especially for the intercoastal around Florida, these markers are not always consistent. They're not always there. If you're reading your GPS, there's a lot of markers that are there on the GPS and are not there uh, in person. And so it can actually be pretty difficult if you are only going off of your markers. Um, Obviously, you're using your GPS and your navigation charts, makes it very easy. Um, but again, a lot of these markers are missing. So Captain Steve, who was with us, a little trick he told me was just, go from marker to marker. Don't count 2, 3 markers ahead and start trying to adjust your heading. Just go to the next marker. So let's say you pass a green on your left hand side. Look for your next marker, whether it's a green or red, and go to that marker. Don't point your bow at a marker further down from that. Just go to the next marker. And then from there, again, look for your very next one. They're going to be pretty scattered. They're not always consistent. And so that's a pretty safe way of keeping yourself in the channel, not deviating from the channel too far, and not getting ahead of yourself. So that's a really good tip as well. So if you guys have never been through any locks, have never done the trip across Florida through Lake Okeechobee, um, and interested in doing it, have never done it, it can be a little intimidating, having never done it before. But the locks are really simple. Um, they're very easily navigated. They make it pretty fail proof for everybody. Um, and so, obviously, going across from east to west, you're going through the intercoastal headed towards the lake. You're coming. The very first lock is the St. Lucie lock, um, and all of these locks are set up pretty much the same way. They monitor channel 13 on your VHF. So switch over to 13. Always try and hail the lock master to get any information or any directions from them, whether they need you to wait past a certain point, um, how long it's going to be, how high or low you're going to be raised or dropped. All very important information for when you're going through these locks. So again, they're all pretty much set up the same way. They actually have a red and a green light to let you know when you are good to enter the well. If it's red, don't go in the well. They will tell you on the radio when it turns green, you are clear to go in. So, yeah, you're going in. Obviously, you just make your approach real slow. Usually, it's either side is fine. Sometimes they ask you to stay to the left or the right side of the well. Um, Again, listen to the lockmaster and whatever they relay over the radio. And then they've got all of the dock lines every maybe every 10 foot, laying down. So you are obviously you want to put your fenders out. It is just a concrete wall, and then have somebody on your bow. Another new rule: they're making you wear your life jackets. Make sure you have your life jackets ready and available. So when you enter into the lock, everybody is required to have life jackets on. So again, get your life jackets on, set up your fenders on whatever side you're going to tie up, get somebody on the bow. Once you get in, you get a line on the bow, you get a line on the stern. You are required to shut the motors off. So get everything shut down, hold yourself in place or tie it off on a cleat. And then yeah, from that point, you're pretty much just waiting for them to either drop the water or raise you guys up. So, um, yeah, the only thing really to pay attention to if you are going down, obviously don't tie off the cleat. You want to be able to man the line and make sure you're letting out slack as the boat goes down. Sometimes these locks will actually drop you 8 to 10 feet depending on the water level. Um, the first lock, St. Lucie lock, took us up about 8 feet, which was pretty significant. So, and then another recommendation is to bring a pair of gloves. These dock lines in all of these locks, the bottom half of them are always sitting in the water, totally covered in algae, barnacles. It gets pretty nasty. So the gloves are definitely a very good move. And yeah, besides that, again, listen to the Lockmaster. It's very simple. Once you go through one lock, you've pretty much been through them all. So here we're obviously slowly pulling into the well. You can see the ladders, the lines on each side, tied up on the port side. I ended up tying off, but again, I untied it and just manned the line myself. And then obviously you can see them opening the gates. They cracked the gates to let the water in. And this was the St. Lucie lock. This was a 8 foot rise. So this actually took about 20-25 minutes to get um, all the way up to the next level. All right, so like I said, the Port St. Lucie lock is the first lock that you'll encounter going from east to west on the Intracoastal heading toward Lake Okeechobee. Uh, from St. Lucie lock to the next lock is about 24 miles to Port Mayaca lock. This is the last lock that actually takes you into Lake Okeechobee. Um, Once you get into Lake Okeechobee, um, if you've never done it before, there is obviously two routes, as you can see here. The main route that everybody will use is Route 1 going across the lake. Once you exit the Port Mayaca lock, you will enter into Lake Okeechobee. You'll start heading roughly southwest um, for several miles. There are a couple of dog legs, but this section is marked fairly well, and there was plenty of water for us the entire time. We saw anywhere between 8 to 12 feet of water the entire time that we crossed the lake, even into Clewiston and to the next lock in Moorhaven. Um, so pretty simple. If you've got uh, like I said, it's marked pretty well. Very easy to follow. And one last thing to consider if you are making the trip, um, whether you're going east to west, west to east, there are the chance of getting delays at some of these locks. We encountered a lot of sailboats coming the opposite direction, and like I said before, that Lucy lock took about 25 minutes. If you get there just as they are loading the other direction, obviously you'll have to wait for them to drop down and exit the lock. So there are a lot of delays that can happen. Not even just from the locks, but traveling the intercoastal. There's a lot of boats docked on the side, kayakers, small boats that you don't want to wake. So there can be a lot of delays. The total trip length, if you're going from the Atlantic intercoastal to the Gulf intercoastal, um, or to the final lock, the Franklin lock, is roughly 106 miles, around 110 miles. So if you are trying to make it in one day, luckily we were traveling pretty quick, um, and we were still cutting it close. We got to the Franklin lock right around 4 o'clock, and they close at 4:30. So you always want to make sure if you are trying to make it through that last clock, that the locks close at 4:30. And that was pretty much it for our trip. Again, going east to west through Lake Okeechobee. Very fun trip, successful. We were able to make it to Cape Coral the first day. Stayed overnight at Tarpon Point Marina in Cape Coral, and second day ran up the coast.
back home to St. Pete. It was a little nasty on the second day. Had the wind at our back, which was nice, but we were probably in 4 to 5 foot seas that day going up to St. Pete. But um, yeah, the boat handled it great. Um, it was a great trip. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully, there's some helpful tips in here and safe travels.